Right, in this video we're going to have a look at something that you probably know a little bit about in some ways, and that's an organisation called the NHS. NHS, I sound drunk already. It's sometime on a morning and I'm not really drunk, but I just had a bit of a speech impediment there. The National Health Service. Now the National Health Service has been around for many years, and Aaron Bevan set it up, Labour man. You can look at Google it, and anyway, let's not bore you with that. See, the thing is that what happened is that the National Health Service basically was a simple situation. You go in, doctors look at you, and previously, when it came to your notes, everything was basically kept on paper. So what we're going to put here is I'm going to put the word paper-based notes. Now, the National Health Service, look at that appalling handwriting. I was supposed to say notes, something that I'll come on to in a moment. The National Health Service basically has been moving over to what they're trying to create is what they call the NHS database. And eventually, this will become the world's largest database. Yeah. I think there's some statistic about the National Health Service being like one of the world's largest employers. I'm not sure. It might be the world's largest employer. But the whole point is this. We have all of these old paper-based notes that are going to have to end up on, and that's supposed to be a drawing of a computer, but a computer-based system. And what this is known as is something called EPR. And that stands for, well, there we go. It stands for electronic computers, you see. Patient, because that's what you all are. And records, because they keep all of your data. But currently you can go to a lot of doctor surgeries, and certainly one that I use in Kent, little village of Ash. All our records are stored on paper. So let's have a little think. And in this opening video, we'll have a little think about, well, why is that bad, and you know, what's the problems with it, and what are the advantages of going to computers? Very similar to sort of manual versus ICT systems, some videos I did a while ago. So let's have a look at let's start off with the problems of those paper-based systems. Problem number one. Sometimes, let's say you go to your doctors and the doctor can't fix it. You've got something like, I don't know, you snore too much, something like that. I chose that because I do, I'll be honest with you. And so your doctor is involved in that one, and he refers you to the ENT, which stands for Ear, Nose and Throat Clinic. But the whole point is that they both need your notes. So if you've got a paper-based system, someone's got to physically transfer your notes from the doctor to the ear, nose and throat clinic. Now, if they're transferring physical notes, of course you've got the problem. It's time, and we'll come on to the other problems a little bit later on. But ultimately, what this comes down to is that at any moment in time, you can't have two people accessing the same data. Accessing same data is what I'm supposed to put here. So either the notes are here with your doctor, or they're at the ENT people. And then ultimately, they've got to send them back, haven't they, to the doctor. And you can probably see there's a problem which we'll come on to now. Problem number two is that on a paper-based system, things do go missing. There's no doubts about it. It may not be deliberate, but you know, it just happens, accidental missing. And as well as missing, what that can also happen is some of those notes could be especially filed. There we go. My name is David Phillips, and let's face it, Phillips is quite a common name, and when you're filing the things away, you might put it in the wrong place. And I'll give you something here now as a little one. My father is also called David Phillips. Very imaginative in the way he named me. And we actually find sometimes, because he has stayed with me in the past, and he's been registered with our local dentist or doctors, and they get it wrong, they get us the wrong way round. So misfiling could happen. Do you understand? You put basically, you take your folder, oh, I'm not supposed to say folder, or your file, and they put it back in the wrong place. Or they put your notes in with the wrong person. So my note is David Phillips, going with my father's note is David Phillips. Anyway, I'm sure you kind of get the idea. Fourth problem, something that I sort of introduced you a little while ago to, a couple of moments ago, is that in handwritten notes, handwriting Well, sometimes it's difficult to read, isn't it? Difficult. I'm going to emphasize this by doing this quickly. There we go. That's supposed to say read. Doesn't look anything like it, does it? It looks like RWL. Who knows what that says? Fun enough, actually, doctors are quite famous for having appalling handwriting, so maybe I've missed my vocation. I should have gone into the healthcare system because I've got the right handwriting for it. Another problem, and I think the last one that we'll deal with, is this. Storage. Just flip back a slide. All them paper-based records? Loads of them, isn't there? Or, so you've got this here, paper-based records, or you could have it on a small computer in the side of the room. In fact, actually, a decent modern computer can hold a hell of a lot more than what you could see. It could probably hold hundreds of times that amount of notes on a hard disk. So storage is going to be a problem. But also, imagine now someone had misfiled something and I ask you to find the notes of a Mr. David Phillips and they'd misfiled it. It's not just the storage, but in fact, because they're so difficult to store and it takes up so much vast space, if you want to search for something in particular, then you have a problem that if someone's .3 misfiled them, that makes searching even harder. So there we go. Those are the 5 major problems that the NHS faced with a patient database that was stored on paper. So they've decided to move to the world's biggest computerized database. So if we go with computers, what advantages does that give us? Now, before I go to the advantages, let's just go back a slide again. You can't, in an exam, play the problem of, paper-based records go missing, and then in your advantages go, the advantage of a computerized system is that paper-based records shouldn't go missing, because you can't play the same thing twice. So you're going to have to come up with some other reasons. I'm going to be doing, I suppose, a little bit of repeating in some ways, but in an exam, what you want to be doing is making sure that you don't repeat. Certainly, the first point on the previous one is that 2 people can't access the data at the same time. But I'm going to put point number 1, numerous people, because it doesn't have to be 2, it could be loads, couldn't it? Can access data at the same time. But most importantly, as well, they can access it. I was going to put from anywhere. Be careful with that, from anywhere. I should perhaps put from anywhere that is connected to the database system. When you say put from anywhere, does that mean a doctor could be out having a game of rugby at the weekend and they go, oh, someone's come, problem, I've got to access the notes. Oh, actually, probably could pick it up from a PDA, couldn't they, or an iPhone or something like that. So maybe from anywhere in the future may be feasible, but at the moment, at least you quantify it by saying, from a computer that's connected to the NHS database. The other advantage of not having notes in lots of different places is that if you only have for each patient one set of notes, then that brings you on to a piece of terminology that you'll be dealing with on the A2 course when we look at databases, and that word is consistency. My name is Phillips. Some people spell Phillips, as I do, with 2 L's, and some people spell Phillips, like the electrical manufacturer, with 1 L. But if we've only got one set of notes, and they spelt it correctly in the first place, then we should never see that option appearing. So having one set of notes brings consistency in your data, in that it's only there once, so we should, if we assume we got it right first time, and that's validation and verification for you, assume we got it right first time, then it should be right for everybody that is accessing the data from anywhere. There's no doubt that another one that you could look at, another advantage, is that of security. I think it's pretty obvious, really, that a computer should have greater levels of security than a paper-based system. So it's computer versus paper, I suppose. But a paper-based system is perhaps far less secure in that, if someone breaks into surgery, they can just nick the stuff. If they break in and try and nick the computer, then maybe if the files are encrypted, they still can't get to them. So you can play the security thing. But also, number 4 is that if I've got a computerized system, a lot easier to back up than a paper-based system. The only way you can back up a paper-based system is to photocopy it all, and that's going to take a lot of time. And it would create, of course, vast amounts of paper that you've got to store. And finally, I think the last one we'll deal with here is physical, there we go, handwriting again. Physical transportation, and that means simply carrying the notes. Not necessary, because if people can access your data from anywhere, then they don't physically need to have a pile of bits of paper delivered to them so they know what's wrong with you. So that's what I want to focus on in this first video. It's basically nothing more than the advantages and disadvantages, or the advantages really, of moving over to a computerized system, as the NHS is trying to do, rather than sticking with the old paper-based system that some surgeries still actually have. I know my local dentist that I now go to in Herne Bay, no computers, everything on bits of paper, and they write reminder notes a year in advance of when you... It's crazy, isn't it? They should be emailing those out. It must cost them a fortune in stamps, but that's what they do because they haven't embraced the 21st century yet. Anyway, hope that all made sense.